Hi, I am Sarah, and today's yoga practice I'm calling What Grows Here? And the intention behind that question is the practice of letting go of expectation or what we thought something might have been, and it ends up being different. So there might be something right away where you're thinking, oh, I'm in that right now, or oh, I've had that in 2020. Bring it with you into this practice and bring it with you onto this mat with a space of curiosity. And this whole concept was inspired by the Book of Mormon and Moroni chapters 1 through 5, but most specifically Moroni chapter 1, because in this we learn that Moroni actually expected himself to be done writing and sharing things of God and life, and he actually expected, losing my scriptures, his life to be complete. And as we learn in chapter 1, that was not the case for him. In fact, I love his words where he says, I supposed not to have written more, but I have not as yet perished. He totally thought he should have died, and he hasn't. And then we read in verse 4, again, he repeats himself, I had supposed to have not written anymore, but I'm writing a few more things. And he just is completely sharing this fact that like he completely thought his life was going to go one direction, and it's not. And this is the beauty, because when life does not go as we expect, what do we choose to grow? Do we try to grow the expectation that doesn't exist in our present reality, or do we try to grow what it is that we need to do? Moroni sets a beautiful example of the power of being present and staying present. And he does that because he chooses to continue to write. Clearly, he was still, feeling called to write and express. And he goes on in chapters 1 through 5 are actually beautiful chapters that really center on the sacrament. And that's a weekly ordinance that we partake of in our church every single Sunday. And he shares the exact words as he learned them through those that learned them through the gospel of Jesus Christ as it existed when Christ established it on the earth. And what a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I won't get into a practice centered around the sacrament, but I do want to offer to you two concepts. One, choose one word of the sacrament to kind of focus or meditate on and see what that does. And number two, remember that the sacrament in and of itself, where we're sitting quietly, we're in stillness, we're practicing presence, is one of the most beautiful and authentic forms of meditation and mindfulness that is just available to us. And so sometimes I know we box like church things over here and mindfulness and meditation over on another end. And I just want to offer to you that it all exists. A beautiful book that teaches, I think, just great concepts behind this is called The Power of Stillness. And while I'm not trying to turn this into like a book review, I'm also going to just hold up really quick some other books that teach the present, which have been just so fun. I think I find exploring that and understanding that a little bit more is just so fun. So I love this one. It's called The Untethered Soul. I have found great insights and perspectives about the present moment from this one called Present Over Perfect. This is a beautiful story about letting go of expectations and embracing what is. The Alchemist. And it's just, there's so much wonderful thing out there. Another beautiful one is called The Power of Now. So if any of that speaks to you, add them to your Christmas list in upcoming season, or check them out at the library. let's go ahead and get started in our practice today. And this practice does offer some movement and some flow to it. And I invite you to use wisdom. I invite you to practice what feels good for your body. And I invite you to also allow yourself to maybe let go of expectations. So let's begin. Seated position on the mat. And we are actually going to cross those legs. I know often I talk about not crossing them, but today we will. And it's the only variation is we're not doing that tucked under tight cross that we might still be so familiar with. We're taking it more parallel with those legs. So the feet are kind of resting directly underneath those knees. Now, it doesn't matter which way you cross, we will reverse it. So you're probably going to cross the way that feels normal and natural to you. And then when we come back to this, whichever one feels like you have to really think about it. So let's begin with our breath. Hands on the knees, closing on the knees for grounding, opening towards the sky for receiving, or maybe we're doing a little bit of both today. But close those eyes, lengthen through the spine, and just take a breath for a minute. If we're not already there, start breathing in and out of the nose, softening any areas that might be holding tension. Yoga is a beautiful tool for intentionally practicing stepping into the present moment. So as we go through these different poses, instead of trying to shift and get through it, instead of trying to get to that destination, let's take the notice and awareness of the journey. Now you might have something in mind that should have gone differently than how it goes in the present moment. And you might not. Either one is okay. I just want to offer to you as that thing comes into our awareness. Our goal is not to change the present moment. It's not to problem solve that should, but it's simply to focus on what grows here now, what exists right here, right now. Let's get a little curious. And also allow ourselves to let go of any of those shoulds we might be holding on to still. Now with that breath, long inhale, we're walking those hands forward, hand over hand. We might go a couple inches here. We might expand a little bit deeper, but we're taking that heart and allowing it to lead and open ourselves up. In this practice, we are focusing with the body and openers. So we're spending some time opening, particularly those hips, because as we open our physical body, we allow space to open our minds and our hearts. Beautiful. Walk those hands right back. Placing both fingertips towards the front, and we're just ever so gently reaching up through that chest. A little expansion through that upper back. Beautiful. And then we're taking those arms out side to side and rotate those palms behind us. Good. For just a moment, close those eyes and imagine pushing those palms into a wall. So as if we were lined up against a wall and we're just pushing those palms into the wall. Push, 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 push. Strong dynamic energy. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Beautiful. And then release, let go, and give yourself a hug. We're going to go through that again. Inhaling. Take those palms, pushing towards the back. Now, imaginary wall, push, 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 push. So notice how the body feels when we're pushing against resistance. We're creating our own resistance. We can create our own resistance in our bodies, and we often create it in our minds. I know I do. Especially when we are thinking things should be different than they are. Resistance, resistance, resistance. And I invite that letting go, release, and instead, let's step into self-compassion and giving ourselves a hug for what is. And let's embrace that breath. Beautiful. Now, let's rotate. So, opposite leg comes in front, bringing those legs parallel. Nice inhale, and as we exhale, walking those fingertips forward. We might notice right away that those arms can extend either further or shorter with the opposite leg in front, and that's just interesting to notice our hips and the alignment that it creates. And walking ourselves back up, fingertips point forward, and we're just lifting through that upper back, chest, neck, shoulders. Beautiful, extending into the sky. Open, open, open heart. Yes, and then coming center. Now, same thing, start with those palms facing forward, rotate them behind, and then push resistance. Create your own resistance. There's so many times our minds create our own resistance. And it's part of the human experience. Beautiful, but not all resistance has to be solved. Exhale, release, release, release. Take the opposite arm in front. Give yourself a hug, self-compassion. Invites grace. Self-compassion invites the present moment. And one last time, create that resistance. Sometimes that resistance we create is in resisting emotions, not wanting to feel that negative feeling in the body, so we resist against it. Sometimes just releasing and offering self-compassion for those hard emotions can be exactly the thing that frees them and releases them. The art of processing emotions is a beautiful gift we can give ourselves. All right, so let's come on up. Tabletop position. Curling those toes under, and you know, if you've done any of my videos before, we're warming up that spine. Inhaling long, exhaling, rounding through our cat, and then inhaling and finding cow. Exhaling, rounding through cat, and inhaling through cow. Now, if you are looking for a gentle practice today, I invite you to work through some of those poses and things that you might be familiar with as I've talked you through them before. This practice will be a bit more active. Beautiful, centering up, releasing through. And I also invite anyone who's watching this to maybe let go of what they think a yoga practice should be for their bodies and just let themselves move and adjust and create variations in the present moment as it speaks. Shifting forward, lowering towards the earth, gentle cobra, lifting up. Exhale, squeeze the belly, lift the hips, and press back. Inhaling forward, exhaling, release. Inhaling, exhale, lift right back up. Now, tabletop position, curl those toes under, lift the knees, and hold. We call this floating table. Deep knee bend, reaching back, fire dog, opening up through that upper back. And I notice mine's a bit tight, but I'm looking to draw those ears between my biceps. And to do that, I need a deep knee bend. Extending those legs ever so slightly and shifting the body forward. We lower down halfway, lifting and reaching upward facing dog, and then exhale, reach back, downward facing dog. One more time. Inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, and exhaling. Now stay in downward facing dog. Inhaling and exhaling through the nose, releasing those shoulders away from the ears, and then bending the knees as we need to create that spinal extension. From here, we walk the hands towards the feet. So we're coming back. Sometimes we got to go back with our minds to bring our minds in alignment with where our feet actually are standing. Sometimes we get so caught up living 2-3 steps ahead, we miss out on that space of where we are now. Journey of a lifetime, right? And walk those hands back forward. Downward facing dog. Your right leg lifts up towards the sky. Knee comes into the chest. And we use a hand to support, bringing that foot forward. Now we have an extended lunge. We could lower that back knee. We might choose to keep it lengthened. And if we keep it lengthened, if you'll notice my heel, I'm looking to lift that heel up towards the sky versus pushing it downward. So we're letting that heel lift. From here, I'm taking the same arm as my leg to the inside of my right foot. And then I'm letting my left fingertips open towards the sky. Could I rest my right arm on the top of my thigh? Absolutely. And I invite you to adjust as it speaks to your body today. Now, we are traveling from here, and these left fingertips are the lead and the energizing space. The other main energizing space is the core. We're squeezing through the belly, lifting and peeling ourselves up, planting that foot, and opening to warrior 2. Beautiful. We made it. Inhale up to the sky. Exhale back into warrior 2. Reaching those fingertips forward, side angle. So we could rest that right arm. We might extend it, very familiar to where we just were, the different position with those legs. We can take that gaze towards the earth. We can take that gaze towards the sky. From here, we gaze towards the earth if we're not already there, and our right fingertips are creeping themselves forward. They continue to lead, and we let our body shift forward to a balancing half moon. And from here, we teeter-totter, rotate ourselves up into tree pose. Tree pose is one of my most favorite poses. In fact, if I just have a minute during the day, we might be doing whatever it is, coming into tree pose can be just a beautiful grounding space. I think that one thing that really connects is that it brings our mind into the present moment because we're trying to balance and not fall over. But it's also just the concept of it being a tree. Anybody that knows me personally knows I have a big love for trees, so I like that reminder. My tree today is very wobbly. It must be windy out here. And that's what I love too, is the tree pose can feel so different depending on our day. Beautiful. And we're going to shake it out and work to that opposite edge of the mat. If you remember, I'm rotating so that you can see me at all times. So, but we're working to the opposite of the mat. So now we're at the top of our mats, facing the bottom. And we're inhaling up towards the sky. Exhale, forward fold. Walking those hands out to downward facing dog. Maybe taking a knee bend to create that alignment, and then extending or staying bent. Let's draw those hands again towards the feet. As much as the mind wants to take 2 steps forward, we are inviting it to ground right where those feet are. And then let's extend that expression back out. Downward facing dog. The left leg lifts up towards the sky, and we bring it in using a hand to help draw it forward. Again, whether the knee is lower or lifted, completely up to you. If we're lifted, we're watching that heel and bringing it up towards the sky. Left hand comes to the inside of the left leg. Right arm extends to the sky. Now this is going to feel a little wobbly, a little awkward. But sometimes that's how the present moment is. And sometimes that's what makes getting present more challenging, because we want to stay 2 steps ahead and not think about what is. Right fingertips lead, belly engaged, lift up, warrior 2. Adjust those feet. Big inhale up, exhale down, side angle. Resting on the knee or extending. Do what speaks to you today. Gazing up towards the sky or down towards the earth. Maybe we like looking straight along the horizon. And friends, rotate those eyes towards the earth and let those left fingertips creep forward as we expand into our half moon. Now, a few variations of our balancing half moon. We can come up like this and even have an arm supporting on the thigh. Some of us may prefer to keep that half moon a bit more hinged and have a hand on the earth. And some of us may prefer something in between where neither hand is touching, but we're expanding from there. Lifting up to tree pose. Now, tree pose, as I showed you on the first side, with that leg above the knee. I also invite tree pose connecting towards the earth. Beautiful grounding space as well. We just want to be mindful that whatever that connection is, we avoid the knee joint itself. It's somewhere on the leg, but does not interfere with the joint. And beautiful. We'll shake that out. Taking those feet nice and wide, pointing those toes just ever so gently along the diagonal, and then pointing those toes straight forward and just kind of noticing the difference and maybe letting them open completely. We're coming into what's called horse pose, and we look for those feet to be along the diagonal. So the knees are just in a natural extension. And horse pose is about having a long, flat spine, and we're bending and hinging from the hips. I will turn so you can see this. Horse pose looks like this. And we're looking to create a tabletop-like extension with our spine. So we're trying to get that spine like a tabletop. In fact, I'll stay to the side. Now, a few options. We can keep those hands for support, Or for a different expression, we take eagle arms. And we're drawing the right arm in front of the left arm. Left arm is above the right. Palms pressed together, and they want to go towards the heart, but we're expanding them outwards. 3 more breaths. Soaking in all that beautiful sensation that's coming into those hips right now. Use the hands very gently, hinging right back up. Oh, beautiful opening right there. Now this right leg lifts up, and we are crossing that leg above the knee joint. And again, coming back to that bent over, hinged position. This is a variation of eagle pose. And I want to invite you to play with this eagle pose. So I'm going to show a couple options where we can take our eagle pose, we can let our eagle pose fall, and we can turn into a flying pigeon. All of these are variations, so let your body do what speaks to you. But if we let our eagle fold or fall, we're essentially letting those hands connect with the earth. And we may want to offer ourselves a flying pigeon. Flying pigeon is where we're letting that foot, if we notice we have that natural foot joint, it hooks up onto the tricep. And we plant those hands nice and solid, hooking on that tricep, and then just letting that back foot lift off. Releasing and coming back. Now, if this is your first rodeo with seeing or experiencing any of those things, be present with yourself and be patient, but also know that what we focus on grows. So if we're in this space and we're focusing our minds on what we can't do, we'll miss out on what it is that we can do, okay? And maybe what we can do is simply stand and express ourselves balancing on one foot. Maybe we can hinge. I don't know what it is for you, but I want to offer to you to grow in this present moment. Not what you should be able to do, not what you could have done at some point, but what you can do right here, right now, and grow that. Get into it and grow it. I'll show that one more time. If you're looking for different layers and places, and then release up. Now, if we're not already there, plant both of those feet. Give yourself a wiggle, okay? I want you to shake out any of those negative voices, shake out any of the shoulds. Just shake it out, shake it out, shake it out. And this is gonna feel silly. You're probably standing looking at me on this video, quite possibly thinking, why on earth is she having us do this? But friends, trust it. We're just releasing energy in a physical way. And sometimes letting go of those judgments, letting go of those expectations, dropping the shoulds, can be so freeing and loosening that our body is ready to just be a little bit lighter. And it's interesting because we'll get to a point where it actually starts to feel like intentional work, that shaking out. And it's an incredible release. So from here, back to horse pose. We've got those feet at the diagonal, hinging from the hips, taking it over. Opposite hands. So we have the left arm below the right this time. Right arm is above the left. Palms pressing in, reaching long. releasing those hands, bringing them to the thighs, long spine, coming all the way back up. Now, as you're ready, the left foot crosses above the knee. So we're careful to keep that off of the knee joint. Could we cross here and hang out? Absolutely. Again, modify and adjust for your body. All right. One of the things I miss about doing a pre-recorded video instead of a live class is I can see you and offer adjustments right on the fly, and that's the beauty of live class. But as you're doing this in the comfort of your own home on your own time, be kind to yourself. You know you best. All right, so we're hinging over. We're creating that floating eagle, okay? And then we have some options here. Maybe we take those hands and we fall with our eagle, flexing through that left foot. Maybe we plant those hands firm and we come into flying pigeon. So those elbows bend towards the back. We hook that foot behind the tricep, and the movement is slightly forward, lifting off. And we're coming back up. And one more time, just for balance sake, we shift ourselves. Maybe we're playing in any of these positions and just exploring them. Please give yourself time to do that. And releasing out. Wonderful, friends. If you aren't already there, come back to your mat. Forward fold. Inhaling, half lift. Exhale. Plant the hands. Step back to plank just for a moment. And then reach back, downward facing dog. That right leg lifts off. Knee comes into the chest. And we come to that traditional pigeon pose. Lengthening, extending ourselves forward. Lots of openers today, so we might notice those hips are a little bit more open in pigeon than they might be typically. That's the gift of practicing openers. And releasing back up. Curling those back toes under. Downward facing dog. And express pigeon on the other side. You can see this better now that I'm on this other side, but you'll notice in pigeon we don't rest or sit on that glute or hip muscle. We think onward and upward. Beautiful time to check in with the breath. Can we bring it back to intention? Can we give ourselves permission to feel whatever it is that exists in the body and let that to process? And then let's give ourselves permission for an intentional thought. And so when we ask the question, what grows here? Let's make that question just a little more specific and say, what do I choose to grow here? Just let that question rattle around in the mind for a moment. We'll come back to it. Releasing out of pigeon, rotate around and find your butterfly. So we've got those feet together, lifting up, 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 up. Now, the lower back and the sit bones so badly want to curl and round. And if your body's doing that right now, I invite you to expand, come right back to that wall that we were sitting against at the beginning of our practice. And then I invite you to cross one hand in front of the other. Yeah, lift through that heart. Maybe even look up. And switch which arm is crossing in front. Release those shoulders. I just caught myself with some shoulder tension. If that's you, friend, let it release. Beautiful. Uncross those hands. Let those feet come to an easy seated position. So we can take our couple moments of meditation in a seated position. That's where I'll be. If you would prefer to lie down, by all means, take that space for yourself as well. But we'll be drawing the eyes closed, just taking a few moments of breath, inhaling from the belly, the ribs, and the chest, and then exhaling from the chest, the ribs, back down into the belly. Inhaling from the belly, the ribs, and the chest, and then exhaling from the chest, the ribs, back down into the belly. And I'll offer that question again. What do I choose to grow here now? Let whatever comes to mind, whether it's a feeling, whether it's a thought, whether it's a person, place, or thing. It could be a noun, could be a verb. If the brain is offering resistance through an answer of, I don't know, or I'm so confused, I'm not sure, I invite you to just take a moment and ask yourself, but if I did know, what would I choose to grow? And if I didn't decide to be confused, or I didn't choose to have indecision, and if there wasn't a right or wrong, but I just picked one, it didn't matter which one I picked first. The real art of the present moment is letting ourselves embrace whatever it is. I invite you to take whatever that word or phrase is, bring it to your heart, and set yourself an intention to let that come with you today, however that speaks for you. The light within me honors the light within you. Thank you so much for joining me. Namaste. I will see you next week. Please feel free to share this if you ever do this practice and it brings someone to mind that might enjoy it. You have my permission to pass it along to them as well. All right, have a wonderful week.